Okay, let's try this again. Had to relocate a little bit. got I've got much better scenery this time. Can you see? And obviously a lot more sun. But let's finish, shall we? I hope you guys can come back. I'll give it a few minutes. I lost my Wi-Fi out here. It's one of the bad things about being outside. And yeah, so this, I'm just gonna get back to it. Thanks, Shay. I'm glad you came back. Hi, Kitty. Moving on, working around the technical difficulties. That dynamic isn't gender specific. It's all about conditioning. And conditioning is what drives us. It's what motivates us, is what pushes us, is what determines what our feelings are, and our feelings drive our actions way more often than our intellect does. And that's why we keep ending up putting ourselves in these toxic situations, because so many of us have been conditioned to it. We were conditioned to it as children. And we never made the effort to recondition what we believe about what love really is, because it is uncomfortable, at least. And human nature is such that we seek to be comfortable above and beyond all else, even when it's not in our best interests. Because at the foundation of it all, we're trying to be right. We don't want to be wrong about what we've been believing our entire lives. And until we're willing to rewrite our beliefs about what relationships are, and about how they work, and about what love actually means, we're going to keep buying into clickbait BS like this article and promoting it as if it is the gospel. And it's only a marketing trick that's mildly accurate. The truth is, you don't have to be a hoe to be in a happy relationship. You just have to be willing to be happy in the relationship, instead of getting into the relationship for the purpose of being right, for the purpose of being in power, for the purpose of getting what you want, for the purpose of being who it is you think you actually are, instead of finding out how someone else sees you. Relationships are our classroom. The classroom is to teach us us. That's the lesson we're here to learn. We're here to learn us through the eyes and from the perspective of another person, so that we are able to see ourselves in ways that we are blind to by ourselves. Now, in the best situations, our relationships remind us of what we already know cellularly, as I like to say. We already know this stuff in our soul, but we don't have a conscious awareness of it. So sometimes it takes another person to show that to us, because we are blind to it. It takes another person to shine a light on it. And sometimes they find things in us that we wish weren't there, that we still want to deny are there, but they're there. And until we deal with them, they're going to stay there, and they're going to continue to destroy our relationships from the inside. While we're busy looking for the big dramatic event from the outside, we are very often our own worst enemies in our relationships, because we're following a faulty program. It isn't about what we want. It's not even about what we think. It is about what we've been conditioned to believe, that we keep living out over and over and over and over. That's why you hear people saying all the time, I keep having the same relationship with all these different people. It's because they're following the conditioning. They are following the program that they were given before they were able to say, I like this program, I don't like that program. This works for me, this doesn't work for me. It happens between 0 and 7 years old, maybe 12, maybe 12. But at that age, you have no discernment. You don't have the life experience to give you discernment. You don't even have the brain anatomy that can accommodate that kind of discernment. That's why the programming is so effective, because at those ages, everything you experience is truth, because you don't know how to argue with it. You'd have no reason to believe that there's any other way. None. So you just accept everything that's given to you as it's given to you. And if nothing or no one interrupts those patterns for you, you will always live that out. And you will wonder why, because your intellect knows better. At some point, you do grow up and you gain discernment and you look back over your life and go, what the ham sandwich was I thinking? I knew I didn't have any business being there. I knew that that person was toxic to me. I knew it. But I stayed. I knew it. But I did it anyway. I knew it. But when they tried to leave, I tried to hold on. I knew it. But when I knew I should leave, I held on. I knew it. It's because your intellect kicked in at some point. But your intellect isn't enough to override your subconscious. It's not enough to override what you believe. And what you believe and what you think can be 180 degrees apart. Until you rewire what you believe, you will keep living your program. And hoes are not your problem. The way you see your relationship is. So if you're in a relationship where you're bound up and you're not having a good time, you refuse to have a good time, that's not because of a hoe. If you're trying to make yourself busy so you won't be available to your mate, hoes don't have anything to do with that. If you are expecting your mate to unpack your baggage, to unbuild your walls, to break through all of that, hoes don't have anything to do with that. I'm just saying, stop looking outside of your relationship for what's tearing it apart and look into your own heart. Look into your own thinking. Look into your own beliefs. How do you know what your beliefs are? Take a look at the state of your relationship. Take a look at how you treat your partner. And take an even closer look at how your partner feels about being with you. The rarely, if ever asked question. Honey, are you getting your needs met? Is this relationship giving you what you're looking for in a relationship? That's not gender specific. And it's not hoe specific. But our society is so anti-love. It's so anti-relationship. It's so pro-adversary. It's so pro-fight, toxicity. It's so pro-reality TV. It's so pro-social media. It's so pro everything that pulls us apart and drives us apart, because all that stuff is profitable. It doesn't even have anything to do with happy or unhappy. It's just the most profitable. That's all. They can't sell a happy ending for anywhere near as much as they can sell an unhappy process. So you see the unhappy process is all blasted all over media, television, radio, it's in the music, it's in the videos. magazines, whatever, and it's seeping is what not seeping, it is soaked into the fabric of this culture to such a great degree that the prevailing idea about relationships is that they're fiction, is that they're fantasy, is that they don't exist, is that real love is harder to find than anything else. And it's not. It's just not. But what typically happens is people confuse the facts with the truth. And they assume that what's factual for them is what's true for everybody else. I'm going to say that again. They assume that what is factual for them is true for everybody else. So they say things like, you women need to step your game up, these hoes are winning. They say things like, you men need to stop leaving babies all over the place and not taking care of them. They say things. They believe things like that. And while they are believing things exactly like that, they are still trying to make relationships in some kind of way, because we are neurobiologically wired for connection, irrespective of what we believe. Our anatomy is wired for connection. So even when we have these toxic ideas about what relationships are, we continue to try to make them in some way, in some fashion. And that's when we get into all the drama that we create, trying to make the relationship fit what we believe it's supposed to be, instead of being brave enough to allow it to be exactly what it is. Because we're always waiting not to be afraid before we love anybody. Can I just tell you something about that? Love doesn't happen because you're not afraid. Love is an act of courage. It happens in spite of your fear. You might want to write that down. Choose to believe perfect love casts out fear if you want to. That would be inaccurate. Love happens in the presence of fear, because love is an act of courage. And if you have courage, fear is a necessary ingredient, because without fear you don't need courage. Without fear you don't need to be brave. Without fear you don't need to be strong. Without fear, it's not even an effort. Everything is easy without fear. That's why fear never goes away. So if you're waiting for fear to fade before you decide to love somebody, trust and believe you will never love anybody, at least not to the capacity that you're capable. You'll keep trying to shortcut it, you'll keep trying to bargain with it, you'll keep trying to backdoor it, yeah. But to have it the way you're capable of having it, the way you say you want to have it, the way you know your heart is craving to have it, it'll never happen. As long as fear is making the decision. The problem isn't the presence of fear. The problem is the fact that you allow fear to make your choices for you. I might get hurt. No, you will get hurt. Now what? You will get hurt. Repeatedly. Now what? Ball is in your court. Because if you're looking for love without pain, if you're looking for love without fear, if you're looking for love without risk, understand that it doesn't exist. And that no matter how you try to avoid it, that's just the truth. It's not factual. It's the truth. So while you try to get your 80% from your relationship and your 20% from the whole, how's that working for you? Love is an all or nothing proposition, in case you were wondering. All or nothing. Love either is or it isn't. There's no in between. It will require everything you have. And if you are not willing to invest everything that you have, everything that you are, everything that you've been, everything that you ever hope to be, everything, then it won't be yours. Not because it isn't possible, not because it isn't there, just because you didn't choose it. And that's cool. If you don't choose it, that's cool. There is no law that says you have to. But what you don't get to do is complain about not having it if you didn't choose it. You don't get to whine and moan about results that you haven't made the choices to get. So if you choose something less than everything, just understand you will get corresponding results. Just saying. I appreciate you guys showing up. I thought since there was so much, it's been a minute since I've seen so much activity about one article in one day that I thought I would address it. Even though typically I wouldn't. But since I'm here to offer my perspective where it's requested, I'm just saying what I see. Holes are not your problem. Holes are not even what the article is about. The article is about what wise women do. Just 5 of the things that wise women do to keep their happy relationships as happy as they possibly can, as far as it concerns them. That's what the article is about. But the salacious title gets more clicks. Hopefully, going forward, it'll be a little easier for the public at large to discern clickbait versus actual substance. The title is clickbait. It's misleading, it's inaccurate, it's salacious, it's inflammatory, and it's supposed to be all that because it makes us click on it. But as long as you can stay out of your feelings when you read things like that and actually examine the content for what it is and for what it isn't, that's where you open the opportunity to actually learn something that can be useful to you going forward. The article isn't useless or worthless. It's just, well, I would have made a different choice marketing it. I'll just put it that way. But if what you're going for is the fastest path to viral, it worked. Especially with that picture. It worked. But if what you really want is to get information, inspiration, motivation to do something that can actually have a positive impact on your life, you're going to have to get past the title, read the content, and put the content into context that makes sense for your life and your relationship. And not just this article, anything you read, anything you hear, including anything you hear from me. I am not exempt. Just keep that in mind when you're examining information from anywhere. Keep your emotions out of it so that you can see what's actually being said and done. Keep the meat and throw away the bones. Thanks for working with me throughout my technical difficulties and for hanging out with me for this long. I appreciate it as always. I love Passionators. You guys are the best. So, feel free to share both of the videos. I didn't mean to do it in 2 parts, but it kind of worked out that way. I just had to make it happen the way I could make it happen. And feel free to comment too, because I'll be checking and commenting back. Thank you again for your time and your trust. Keep inboxing me. As you can see, I do address them in video when necessary and personally when not. So thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, Passionators.